So, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Moments of Magic. And I'm so excited to have Donnielle Carter with us. Hi, welcome to the call, Donnielle. I'm so excited because this call is all about bodies.
Oh, thanks for having me on these Nilofer. I always love talking to you, and I always love how you say my name.
Oh, I don't say it right.
No, you do. That's what I'm saying. But the little inflection, I like it. So I always like hearing you say my name.
Okay, so I love the topic magical bodies, magical being, or magical being, magical bodies.
Hmm.
So, so what do you have for us? or or what do you and your body have for us?
Oh my gosh. Well, for me, starting with when we talk about magic and bodies, for me, bodies really are magic. I find that so interesting how uh, people they always think magic is something outside of themselves, and for me magic starts with me, the infinite being, and the bodies are one of those aspects that really help us strengthen our magic, even like direct it towards a certain degree, and gives it just our bodies giving us information, to me, is absolutely magical. And when you look at you look at a body itself, for me, I find it's magical that it works all the time. Because if you think about it, if you had to do everything for your body that it does, you wouldn't last very long. Because it'd be like, okay, breathe, beat your heart, filter your blood, oh, breathe, beat the heart again, crap, and you'd already be falling over dead by that time. Um, and so I know science explains a lot of this. For me, that doesn't make a difference. Just because you can explain it with science doesn't make it any less magical. Because, I mean, my heavens, the number of things that have to go on in your body in just the right order and just the right times to keep breathing, keep going. Tell me how that's not absolutely magical. And I've seen people do things that with their bodies that they shouldn't be able to in this reality. And it's for me, my body is one of the most magical uh, tools and source of magic that I actually have, because the body really, really, really helps. Like I said, direct it as well. It's really interesting how you can use your body um, as a source of information, but also a source of magic. The number of times I've found strength to do things in my body has been really interesting. How it keeps going when maybe it shouldn't, or maybe the strength is beyond this reality, or that I shouldn't be able to be awake, or even simple things that we think are simple. If you look at the base of it, it's pure magic. And so the more I've acknowledged that with my body, the more magical my body and I are actually becoming.
I love that, and I haven't really thought about that, that capacity the body has to beat your heart, breathe, the pulse, and all those things going on,
Yeah.
regulate the temperature, the blood pressure, and all of that. Wow, it is really magic. And how often do we actually ignore that magic? And we go into that lovely thing called as judgment.
Judgment? What? Yes. Yes, exactly. When we focus on the thing like, oh my gosh, my hip hurts. Stupid body, what's going on? I'm like, your hip may be hurting, so something else is going on. We can ask questions about that, but you're still breathing. You're still, your kidneys are still filtering blood. You're not becoming toxic. You you're still peeing, so you're filtering out other things as well, and your skin and your hair is just, it's really amazing, everything that just keeps going. But we tend to focus on the one thing that's an issue, and I quote that. I'm glad we're on video so I can say issue and you can see me quote it. An issue with our body, because what if it's, for me, pains and anything like that now is just a source of information and not something dire and wrong. You know, one thing whenever I do like private sessions with people or in my workshops with the Right Body for You, oftentimes people will be like, oh my gosh, this is going on, oh my gosh, you know, I think my arm's about to fall off. And I'm like, okay, so truth, is this a problem? And they're like, no. I'm like, yeah, okay. So if you're not defining it as a problem, you can actually receive the information from your body and whatever it's telling you or whatever it requires. Sometimes it's information, sometimes it's like, you know, you require an aspirin, or you require an herb, or you require a nap. You know, but once you stop defining it as a problem and focusing on it, you start to acknowledge more of the magic that your body is doing. You know, and that's why for me, one of the most magical things with your body is just to be in gratitude of it. You know, so we were talking about the, you know, if like one thing, your hip hurts, and so that's everything you look at. Oftentimes when I work with people, if I'm like, okay, your hip hurts, I get it. What else in your body is working? They're like, nothing. I'm like, how's that oxygen? Oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, can you still see me? Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you get up and walk across the room? Yes, but it hurts. I'm like, but you're still doing it, right? Can you hold this glass? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay. So 99% of your body is still magical, still functioning, is still working. Why don't you be grateful for that? Then it starts to shift that judgment of like, oh my gosh, my body is so bad because my hip hurts. Well, that's just one little thing that's going on with your body.
And oftentimes it's like if you look at the information that your body is giving you with the quote unquote problem, then also that is the magic, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Just communication with your body is so, so amazing. You know, for me, it's really just, yes, it gives me information about what it wants, what I want. You know, I is the infinite being. But also if danger is near, or, you know, who would be nurturing to even to sit next to on a plane or something like that. And the fun thing about this magic of communication with your body is like, you know, just my most recent experience, I've been asking my body, I'm like, okay, body, we know you want to move more. What would be fun for you? You know, and I just kind of threw that question out there, not coming to like, I have to know in the next 10 seconds or it's not magic. You know, so many of us put a timeline on that, right? It's like, I asked the question, okay, buddy, what movement do you want to do? Nothing. See, I can't, there's nothing there. I can't communicate with my body. I'm like, give it a chance. So it's interesting. So I've asked this body, what kind of movement would you like to do? And I had just come home from Dane's ESB in Seattle on Wednesday. And I was driving home from the airport and I was about to turn onto the road. I've lived in this place for a year. And as I was turning on the road, I turned and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a Pilates studio right there within walking distance. And I've lived here a year. And I was like, oh. And I'm like, I love Pilates. My body loves Pilates. And so what was fun about that is the magic was when it was time for it to be, it was. I've been asking that question for a year. And even though I've been passing this by for a year, until it was actually time to actualize and utilize it, I never saw it. And we always tend to think of magic as like, poof, it shows up. Well, sometimes the magic is it shows up when it was supposed to. You know, something I've driven by for a year that I didn't see, a lot of people might go, hey, that was just unawareness. I'm like, well, no, actually, it just wasn't time. So the magic was I didn't judge myself for the past year for not going to do it. And so this morning was my first appointment, which was a lot of fun. So,
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so many times, we make this moving our bodies into like a form and structure. So it's like you may go, like my body loves yoga, but not necessarily with everyone. So my body really knows
Yep.
who is going to be nurturing who as a teacher. So
Hmm.
I go for this yoga class once a week, and sometimes my body just doesn't want to go, and I kind of totally honor that. And then sometimes I can make out that I, the being, am resisting going, you
Hmm.
know whereas my body is like, hey, let's go.
Yes. Yes. There have been a number of times that it was like, oh, but I have to do this or whatever. And the body's like, let's go play, let's go play, let's go play. And so, and you have to, for me, and just having awarenesses is quite magical, I think. Because like I have this fun little yoga swing and everything. And it was like I do it, but it was easy to push it off. It's like, oh, I'll do it later. Or like, last night I was working on something on the computer, then all of a sudden it was 11:30 at night. And I'm like, oh crap, I don't think I'm doing the yoga swing today. But I know myself, so it's like if I have these set up times to go in, I'll do it. So for me, that is part of that magic of just no judgment and just be like, oh, this is how I'm going to get myself to do it. Cool. And that's what's required. So for me, I really see truly magic in everything. And what was interesting is 2 nights ago, how, because, I talked about a little bit about how we always tend to think that if something's going wrong in our body, or something is going on in our body, it's a wrongness and that we have to stop it. And, that kind of thing. Well, it was interesting. I woke up 2 nights ago, middle of the night, as you do, like 3:30 in the morning, and my body was not feeling well. And it was really like sore throat, and I started getting all of those like cold or flu symptoms or whatever in my nose, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And of course I went to this reality. I'm like, I have things to do, and I have a trip in today, and I have my first Pilates appointment, and I have to talk with Nilofer. I'm like, I can't be sick, and I went into all of this judgment at 3:30 in the morning, and I went, wait a minute, my body's not doing this just to be a pain in the butt, or or to create a problem. I'm like, okay, I'm like, body, are you requiring this raise in temperature? And it's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And in this reality, we go, okay, so the magic is, oh, well, you know what? We don't need to do this, body. Stop it. And then if it stops, we're magical. But if we get sick, then we're not magical. But what if your body actually requires it? And this is what I was talking about. So I'm like, okay, body, something going on that you require to raise the temperature. Because, a lot of people, they know it, but they don't cognitively know it or acknowledge that they cognitively know it. And that oftentimes the raising of a fever is to burn out something that's going on in your body. Your body will raise its temperature to allow it to burn out a bug or a virus or whatever it is. And so there's actually something to that. And so when I started feeling the sore throat and the raise in body temperature, I'm like, okay, body, are you requiring this raise in temperature? Is there something going on? It was like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So instead of fighting it or resisting it and going, you have to stop it right now and prove how magical we are, or just like, oh, I'm going to be sick for days. I went, okay, body, I get it. You require this. Something's going on. What if we could speed up this process? What if we just burn through it? And those are literally the words I said. Like, what if we just burn through it really quickly, and you do whatever's required, and then we go on our merry way. So I spent the next about 6 hours very uncomfortable, not sleeping, not having a good time, not feeling well. But you know what? By about 9 o'clock, I was fine. That's what was, and for me, that's so magical. But it wasn't from the resistance or like, I'm going to prove how magical I am because I stopped the cold mid-flight. It's like, no, you know what? My body was requiring that raise in temperature for whatever reason. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I burned through a cold of whatever it was in like 6 hours.
I love that because my body has been really contributing to me throughout the summit. I've had like 24 interviews in 7 days, and so I woke up on Friday and my body had this level of intensity, and it's the weekend here, and I was expecting visitors, like 20 people, and I said, "Oh, body." So I said, I had a dialogue with my body and I said, "Body, what would it take for this to be ease for us?" And literally I had a message on my WhatsApp, and one of my friends in Australia with whom I swap SOP sessions, she said, "Hey Nilofer, do you want to swap today?" I said, "I would love to receive now, and can I gift you in the night?" And she said, "Totally, I'm happy to do it." So in a couple of hours she gifted me an SOP session, and my body was like in so much ease.
Nice.
And I had so much space in my universe. I was like, I went through the whole day with 20 people in my home, and a lot of them were kids, and you know how kids are, and if they are in the house they can get up to a lot of things. And I just was at that space, and my body was like just so happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, even asking your body, I mean, how often do we actually forget to ask our body to contribute to whatever we are doing? I mean, we don't include our body, right?
Well, yeah, and then we tend to try to direct what that contribution looks like.
Yes.
Is that, okay, my body's going to contribute to me by looking this way, acting this way, or lasting this long, instead of just like, hey, body, are you willing to contribute to the telesummit or whatever it is? And like, oh, look, somehow you got a friend offering an SOP session. It's like, if you had a point of view about like, okay, so what's going to be nurturing for my body is these people not coming over, or or taking a nap, alcohol, or just whatever it is, your body can be like, well, that's not what I had planned. I had planned an SOP session,
It's funny you're saying that, because the first thing I went to was that, what would it take for them all to not show up today? And then I said, oh, maybe I have a few points of view here. What if I just, dropped all my points of view?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the most magical things is to have no point of view or no judgment. And that, and yeah, not trying to direct what the contribution that your body can be.
I love that. I mean, really, thank you for kind of saying it so clearly. You get it when you get it, right?
Well, my cheeky body for you. Not surprisingly, it's kind of sarcastic, like I am.
So, Donnielle, there is a comment from one of our listeners, and she says it just wasn't time. So, can you say more about when you know it's time?
Yeah. Well, for me, I know it's time one of the ways is when it shows up, because like I'd been living in this apartment for a year going, okay, body, how would you like to move? What else is required? And, and I bought the yoga swing, and I do use it, but I put it off. And so I look at this, and if I had seen the yoga studio, or sorry, not yoga, Pilates studio, I don't know, 6 months ago, I was such a different person 6 months ago. I mean, literally since I moved into this apartment has been one of the most transformational years of my life. It's really interesting. Which that story is one for over drinks sometime. And and so if I had seen the Pilates studio 6 months ago, I would have fully rejected it. Not only with, I don't know what with, but I would have fully rejected it. And I would have been like, no, I'm not doing that. I have tapes. I don't have to go into a studio. And And my favorite, I don't have time because I'm never there. Blah, 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 you know, because for me, my thought was always having classes at Pilates studio or anything like that. And I'm like, well, I can't do a series of classes because I'm always behind, because I'm here for a week and then I'm gone for 3 weeks. And, you know, if it's a weekly thing, then I'm far behind and I can't learn it. Blah, excuses. So, but what's interesting is about 2 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was talking about doing these private sessions with this trainer, and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. I went, oh, well, that would be interesting because that is on your timeline, and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And so now and I was gone during that time. So now when I came back and I passed by the Pilates studio, I went, oh, well, maybe I could do private sessions. And it says right on the thing, we do private sessions. I'm like, well, there you go. So it's like, I would have rejected it for time. I would have rejected it because I didn't have even concept about doing private sessions or if that would be fun. Or, you know, like I said, I was just in a different place of like not choosing a lot for me, you know, and until I was able to actually choose for me, plus that information, something I was driving by for a year, I didn't see. And it's not like it's in the way back. I mean, it's right on the road. I'm like, did this just get built? You know, because I didn't think it had been there, but it had. And so that's to be the thing, is not the judgment like, oh my gosh, I could have been doing this for a year. It's like, okay, cool. Now is the time because I see it. And, you know, in metaphysical is when they say the stars have aligned and everything shows up. But for me, it's just like, oh, now is the time I can actually choose it. Even if I had seen it 6 months ago, a year ago, I wouldn't have chosen it.
Yeah, so when you can choose it, receive it, you actually are able to see it.
Yep. See it, receive it, and my body's like, yes. But I had to get to the place where I would choose it.
Yeah.
So for me, now is the time.
So, you know, you spoke about our bodies are magic.
Yes.
And then there is that element of changing your body with magic. And that kind of, you know, can you talk a little bit about that? And then I have a question which kind of ties into that. So do you want me to ask the question, or do you want to speak about changing your body with magic first?
Well, I can start. I'll start with what popped in my head, and then we can see where that goes.
Yeah.
One of the greatest ways to magically change your body is that communication we're talking about. And honestly, working with your body. Because one thing I discovered a couple of years ago that I found was so interesting was I kept trying to do things for my body. Because in communicating with your body, there's different elements to it. Yes, there's asking your body the question, and then there's actually working with your body with the awareness that it showed you. And probably the best way I could explain this was like a couple of years ago, my niece was leaving my house, and it was winter, and her car got stuck in a big snowbank. And so I went over there and I was trying to push it out, you know, heavy car, one girl. And I'm like, okay, body, can we do this? Do we need to go get help, or can we do this? And my body's like, yeah, we can push it out. I'm like, okay. And to push it, nothing happened. I'm like, body, can we do this? It's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, push, nothing happened. And then what I finally realized I was doing was I was like, okay, body, can we do this? And my body was like, yes, we can do this. And I went, okay, I'll do it. And in essence, I kind of, you know, my body and I are having this conversation. And then I went, okay, poof, and shoved my body out of the way and tried to do it for my body instead of actually working with my body. And so as I was having this awareness while trying to push the car, I'm like, oh my gosh, I keep shutting out my body, even though it gave me the awareness. I had the communication. Body, can we do this? The awareness was yes. I went, okay, thanks, see ya. And then I still tried to do it for my body. So as I'm realizing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, body. Let's do this together. Do it with us. Do it with my body. And then what was interesting is almost immediately I fell to my knees and pushed, and the car came right out. Now, logically, you don't necessarily want to be on your knees in front of a running car, right? Because, logic in this reality says bad idea. But I needed the leverage and everything. So as soon as I was doing it with my body instead of for my body, what the awareness I had of what it was telling me was actually possible. So for me, the part of the magic of changing your body is not doing it for your body, but doing it with your body. Because I see people do that so often in sessions or classes. They're like, well, my body told me to do this. I'm like, okay, but did you do it with your body or for your body? They're like, I did it for my body. I'm like, yeah, the results are different if you're not doing it with your body, if you're trying to do it for your body instead. It's like trying to, run a car, do a car race without actually being in the car.
So even when you are moving your body, again, are you doing it with your body or for your body?
Yep.
Wow.
So, because so often people go, I asked the question, my body said it wanted this, like to change, right? Whatever that is. And I'm like, did you do it with your body though? Or were you shutting your body out, trying to do it for it again? Because, it's a cute little humanoid, I'll take care of you, right? But your body wants you to do it with you.
Yeah. And also, about consuming, like eating food and things like that, again, with your body or for your body.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I say, it's an interesting energy if you start looking at that. It's like, am I doing this for my body or with my body?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of change can occur if you're doing with your body. Just like in Pilates this morning, I loved confusing my instructor. Because she comes in and she's like, oh, have you done Pilates? I'm like, oh, I've done them at home, but I haven't done it with machines or whatever, and blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, okay, so, lay on the machine, do your breathing like this, your lungs, your rib cage, and all this kind of stuff. And what was interesting, she's like, okay, now this could be kind of difficult, but what you want to do is you want to, like as you breathe in, you contract your ribs or out. I forget. You contract your ribs and do this. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, body, let's do this. And I did it. She went, so it may be difficult. Oh, there you go. I mean, it was so fun to see her, hear her, and hear her head of like, okay, now I know people struggle with this. Oh, there you go. You got it. You can feel like she was going, what is going on? That's because most people in that environment are like forcing their body into it because it's something new. Whereas my body and I are like, okay, we're going to do this together, right? Yeah, okay. I'm like, okay, body, so we're supposed to relax into our tailbone, whatever that looks like. And my body's like, okay. I'm like, okay. And that's, that force is the for, whereas the ease is the with the body. So that's a lot of fun.
Wow. I love it. Force is the for and ease is with the body. So can I ask a question now?
Please.
So what would you suggest to those who are going through terminal conditions in their body like cancer, MS, etc.?
Mm-hmm. What would I suggest for them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, to have a really vulnerable conversation with themselves and with their bodies as to why it was created. Okay. And when I mean a vulnerable question with them or conversation with themselves is vulnerable as in being willing to see what's going on, not vulnerable as in judging the crap out of yourself. Okay. Because, I worked with a woman who had MS, or she still has. Because, the magic is not necessarily getting rid of it. Sometimes the magic is just the awareness of it. So I was working with this woman who had MS, and I kept asking her questions. And, anybody who's done any access consciousness has heard the question, what do you love about creating cancer? What do you love about creating MS? And, so we started with that and we went on. And I was like, okay, drop your barriers and just be vulnerable. It's like, no judgment. If you had no judgment of yourself, what would you be willing to be? If you had no judgment of this disease or condition, what awareness would you do? What awareness are you? Let me start this sentence again. If you have no judgment of the disease or condition, or yourself in regards to the disease or condition, what awareness are you having that you're now willing to receive? And so as I was talking with her with this, she realized she liked some of the special things she got for having MS, specifically the close parking. I don't know why that one in her universe was something so important, but she loved being able to park close. And so she got just well enough to keep that kind of special parking, which I always found amusing. I'm like, okay, cool. And then she even had more ease with having MS, simply because she realized why she was creating it. And like, I worked with this girl who had cancer. She's 15 years old, had cancer. And I was having a conversation with her, and I'm like, so how's this changed your life? And she's like, can I tell you something? I said, yeah. Because it wasn't a formal session, let's say. And she's like, can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? I'm like, sure. Because it was just a friend of the family. And she's like, for the first time ever in my family, it's all about me. I went,
Bam.
okay. There you go. And what's interesting is it also united her family in a way I'd never seen before. I'm like, well, there you go. And so really, so anybody who's dealing with anything like with cancer, MS, yes, obviously, you can always, what do I love about creating this? But if you're just willing to drop your barriers and be vulnerable and stop defining it as the death sentence, stop defining it as unchangeable, or one of my favorites, stop defining it as something you have to overcome. One of my favorite things to look at is the underlying point of views of everything. So if you're like, okay, I have cancer, I have MS, I have to overcome this, what's the underlying point of view about that? That there's a problem. So just every time you say, I'm overcoming cancer, or I'm overcoming MS, or even alcoholism, or overeating, or anything like this, every time you say that, you're reconfirming that there's a problem. And that leads into the solidification of it, which makes any change almost impossible, because you're always redefining it as a problem. So if you stop defining it not only as a problem, but something you have to overcome every day, it stops being the creative force. Because when you're saying, no, I have to overcome this, you're creating it from the point of view that it's a problem. So when you're vulnerable with these things and just having a conversation with the body, it's like, okay, so another one of my favorites is, what is this facilitating for me? Besides what do I love about creating it, what is this facilitating for me? Like this woman and her happy because the family was about her. And this other woman that, she got the special parking, or I've had, husbands pay attention to wives now, or the husbands didn't want to have sex anymore, so they got prostate cancer. It's really been some interesting things that have shown up when people just lower the barriers and stop defining it as what they've been told it is. They start to get the awareness of what's it creating. And sometimes it's creating great things for them in their life.
So, and the other part of it, Donnielle, is, it's like when something like this shows up, we go to this space of, oh my God, my body is so unconscious to have chosen this.
Yes. Or I'm so unconscious to have created this.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying at the beginning. Just because something's going on doesn't mean it's a bad thing. What is going on? Like, yeah, I had this woman in a class in Rome. She's like, I have to ask a question. I'm like, okay. She's like, well, I have, and I'm like, what, honey? She's like, I have cancer. Okay. She just sat there and stared at me. I'm like, I'm not going to judge you. It just because you're creating this doesn't mean it's a
wrongness.
Yeah, and that's why it was often one of my favorite questions is, what is this facilitating for you? we all create these things for, heaven forbid, that age-old word, reasons. So what is it? Because if we hide these, some of the slowest change I've ever seen for people is people not being willing to see the reasons that they are creating their body as it is. It's like, well, if you're not willing to see it for yourself, you can't actually change it. So if you have no judgment of it, you have that vulnerable conversation of like, oh, so what's this facilitating for me? I'm creating it for this reason. Oh, okay, cool. And then you get to go, hey, do I still want to create that? Oh, no, I don't need that reason, justification anymore, or whatever it is. And so you get to actually create the change that you're on the surface asking for. And sometimes, interestingly enough, one of the other questions is, truth, do you desire this to change? Sometimes the answer is no. But in this reality, it's like, well, of course I want it to change. Well, if you're functioning from, of course I want it to change, you're not actually asking the question. And just because it's no right now doesn't mean it'll be no in an hour.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like it's a wrongness in this reality to, like death is a wrongness. So is like creating a disease, which is a huge wrongness.
Yep. In this reality, I've seen people die. I've seen people create diseases, and sometimes it's the most brilliant thing in their universe. And I mean, it truly is. So that's one of the gifts of Access Consciousness and the Right Body for You tools is any disease or death is just another choice. And you see the platform that you're creating that from, you can actually see if you like it. Just because you started down the path doesn't mean you have to continue it.
I love that. So, so what other tools can you share about changing your body with magic?
Gosh, so many. Well, we've hinted at a few of them, really, about if you're judging whatever's going on, if you're defining whatever's going on, you're going to get little or no change. And then what happens when we go, I asked my body to do this and it didn't change. And then we judge our bodies, we judge ourselves, we don't have communication. Because for me, probably one of the funnest things, again, is what's the underlying point of view here. And, I said something really quickly earlier about, on the surface, the change that we're asking for. And what I mean by that is sometimes when we ask the question of our body, it doesn't actually match the energy. And the energy is what our bodies are going from, not from what we say. And so, like I had, when I first started facilitating classes, one of my body's ways of letting me know the energy was really intense was a sharp intensity and pain in my eyeball. Why it showed up like that, I don't know. It just did. And so as I started facilitating classes, I would be like, oh, everything that is destroyed and created. Oh my gosh, the energy is so intense, my eyeball hurts. Ha 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 ha. And then I would say the words all the time. Oh my gosh, what would it take to change this? Question, what would it take to change this? The energy that I was actually communicating with my body was, I love it because it proves that I'm actually doing something, and it's proving to me that I'm aware of the energy, so don't change. Surface, what would it take to change this? Energetically, don't change, because it's really working for me. So guess what? It didn't change because it was working for me. The intensity proved to me that I was aware of energy, that I had a communication with my body, that energy was real. And that for me, it proved to other people. I don't know why, because they couldn't feel my eyeball, but whatever. And so it didn't change. Even though I asked the question so many times, what would it take to change this energetically? Don't change. My body was like, okay, don't change. Got it. because that's the energy I was sharing with it, because that's the magic, is the energetic communication, right? And until the one day when I was like, this eyeball intensity is really no fun for me anymore. It just hurts, kind of makes me nauseous. And I'm like, okay, body, what would it take to change this? Same words, different energy. And I had no point of view about how it would show up, right? And now sometimes when the energy is really intense, I kind of get like a head dizzy, like when you stand up too fast sometimes, which, hey, that's fun. That works for me. But until the energy matched the words I was saying, it didn't change. So it's like if you've asked the same question again and again and again and again with your body, and then you're like, see, I'm not communicating with your body. Actually, you're probably communicating more with your body than you're giving yourself credit for, because your body speaks the energy, not the words. So what energy are you being with your body when you're asking these questions? Chances are it's giving you what the energy is you were asking with. Does that make sense?
Oh, wow, absolutely. I mean, I can really see my life pass through.
Yeah. And so that's one of those things you just go back and acknowledge, oh, I was being the don't change energy. Okay, good, body, for giving me exactly what I asked for.
Mm-hmm. You know, Donnielle, I have to acknowledge this about you. This thing about the eyeball, and also that other thing you spoke about just before. Now it's like CRS. You mentioned this in the other interview we did in the last summit as well. And yeah, the part about lifting the car, you're pushing the car. Yeah, that one. These two examples. And like either you are communicating better, or I can hear actually what's going on.
I would say yes to both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and and it's funny because I do facilitator training as well. And when I tell people, don't be afraid of repeating a story, because for somebody it's the first time they heard it, or for somebody else it's the 100th time they've heard it, but you know what, they hear it. And if it matches the energy, to actually go with it. Because when I first started facilitating, I was like, oh, I have to have a new story each time. But you know what, it didn't convey the energy. So it's like, if something is working that conveys the energy, it's like, as a facilitator, be that energy, be that story. It's like it pops into your head for a reason. And so, yeah. So when you say, is it you or me? Yes. And everybody else listening, now, in the past, or in the future.
I love that. I love that. Wow. But, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing these two stories again. And thank you, body, for being able to finally get it.
Totally.
So what other tools do you have? I'm being greedy here.
Oh, gosh. So much. If we're talking about changing bodies, well, like I said, the communication, but probably one of the fun things to talk about magic and bodies is money. Right? People are just like, you just took a sharp right turn. What the freak are you talking about? We were talking something about, like, bodies, and now you're talking about money. Yeah. Who benefits from money? You or your body?
Body.
Yeah, totally. Like, my body wanted the private sessions with the Pilates chick, so okay, body, are you willing to contribute to the creation of the finances? Honestly, that's one of the most magical questions you can talk about with money, is, body, are you willing to contribute to the creation and generation of finances? I have yet to find a body that goes, no. Usually the bodies are like, yes, please. I want to eat better, or I want the nicer sheets, or I want the better seats, or I want the choices, or just whatever it is. Like I got a new carpet, and I put on Facebook today, I'm like, I love walking in my bare feet on my new shag carpet, because my body and I walk across that carpet, we just giggle. We're like, because it's such a hedonistic texture and feel. My body, just being that little hedonistic creature, is like, it feels so good. I mean, I'll literally take off my sandals and just go across that carpet. And my body's like, yeah, we're going to create the money for that, because that's fun, so let's do this. So my finances magically changed just by allowing the energy of my body to contribute to the creation and generation of it. And again, it's also part of that doing for or with.
Exactly.
Like, my body's like, yes, please let me help you with this. And most people think it's to work or to create money with your body. It's prostitution, or line work, or building buildings, or something physical, right? And yes, obviously, of course, it can be that, but it's also really just about the energetic contribution. It's like, Nilofer, when you do these summits, you energetically contribute to everybody. It's the same way, with the bodies. If you'll just let your body contribute to your life with no, like, what it has to look like, but just open yourself up to receiving that energetic communication from your body, finances can change. It's like magic, but truly. And for me, and honestly, Nilofer, the very first book I read in Access was Magic, You Are It, Be It. Because that was the first thing.
Yeah, that's my favorite book too.
Yeah. Because I see magic in everything. Magic is truly everywhere with your body in this world. And it's been really fun to see that and acknowledge that, and not let, oh, well, you can explain how it happened, take the magic away. It's like the fact that it's still happening. Like I said, if you actually stopped and looked at your body as a whole organism, the fact that it's warm and moving and breathing and functioning and not toxic is simply astounding. The things that have to work in conjunction together to keep your body moving on a chemical level, on a an energetic level, that is nothing short of magic. I mean, truly, your body is this most magical, amazing thing, that it's like, this goes, and this goes, and this goes, and this goes, and this goes. The things that go on in the minutia of seconds to keep your body going is just such an amazing gift. And you're the magic to that, because when we leave our bodies, your body doesn't do those things anymore. So we also really need to acknowledge, yes, our bodies are magical contribution, but we are also the magic to our bodies as well, because our bodies don't do this when we're not there. So what magic to our bodies are we not acknowledging ourselves as either?
Wow. Wow.
You're it, magic. You're it, be it. That's your body.
So, Donnielle, I'm going to ask you something, but before that, I want you to talk about the beautiful package you've put together to our listeners. And when I read the package, my body just went,
It's fun. It's fun. The one is part of it's a 7-series call of, it's called Your Body is Talking, Are You Listening? And it's this really amazing teleseries I did. It was supposed to be a 6 series, and then I forget how we ended up doing a 7th call, but we did like a 7th follow-up call. And what I didn't list in there that I should have is we also pulled out some of the activities in the book, like being grateful for your body and other things. So there's So there's pulled out of the call. So there's a separate MP3 with just some of those activities in that package as well. But this was an amazing, amazing teleseries because we looked at just communicating with your body, because so much starts there. So much, if you notice, so much of the magic is like, we'll start with communication with your body. What energy are you being with your body when you're saying these words? And so I really took it and broke it down into things of how to communicate with your body and what that looks like. And I did it in a very non-structured, structured way, meaning that each week built on the last week. So it was a flow of information, as well as activities to do at the end of each call to strengthen and build that communication. So that was part of the teleseries. So you get the MP3 loops, the calls, and PDF of the process loops before. And truly, it's one of the most potent series I've ever done. And it was so funny, Nilofer, and I've probably told you this before too, maybe, I don't know. I thought, I'm going to do a 6-week teleseries on communicating with the body. That'll be easy. It was one of the most intense teleseries I've ever done, because so many people have this judgment of what communication with their body looks like, should look like, feels like, tastes like, acts like, what it isn't, how they're for sure no, they're not. But really they are. I mean, just like in that example I was saying earlier about how, I said the words, body, what's going to take to change this? But energetically, I was like, don't change, don't change, don't change. And so on the surface, it's like, oh, you're not communicating with your body because it didn't change. But energetically, you were communicating with your body. So we kind of get into that too. It's like, well, how are you communicating with your body that you're not actually acknowledging? So that's one part of this package. The other part is I did this special topic call. It's called Bodies. One size does not fit all. And we kind of went into, and it's a really fun series. It's a video as well as an MP3 of the call. So it's a Zoom one like this, as well as the MP3 audio loop and the PDF of the processes as well. And we just really went into how the judgments and the points of view about how we've been told there's one acceptable male body, there's one acceptable female body, and if we don't fit into that, it's not right. So it's not about weight, skinny or heavy. Yes, that has a part of it, but it's just, if you notice, it's like there is an ideal image of what bodies are supposed to look like, but every body is so different and unique and special and a contribution. So we also got into there. It's like, so why are you creating your body as it is? And so it was a special topic call. Every once in a while, these calls grab me by the back of the neck and say, "Do me." I'm like, okay. And this was why I call it a special topic call. And this was one of those, and it's fun. So it's 90 minutes, and it was interesting, the things that came up and the intensity that came with it, and it really shifted and changed a lot of stuff. So it was fun. So
oh my God, that is such a beautiful, beautiful package, Donnielle. I mean, really that part of communicating with your body, like really, like what are you communicating? And then
yes,
being able to actually get what your body is telling you and get it in a totally clear way. Wow, that
without judgment.
Yeah, exactly, without judgment. Not to forget that. That's so cool. So, Donnielle, there is a question which has come in. Do you want to take it?
Sure, you tell me. Do we have time?
I have time.
Okay.
I'm being greedy today. Okay. So she writes, oh, wow, I've been really sitting with what you said about stop defining this condition as a problem that you have to overcome. So potent. It reminds me of a client whose mind keeps re-evoking the fear of a cancer reoccurrence because she's such a problem solver. Yet when she communicates with her body, she says that her body says everything is fine. Any magic tips for getting the mind out of the way?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just tapping into this person's universe as well. Um, and it's funny. It kind of reminds me of my grandmother. When she died, she was so upset that she never got cancer, which absolutely makes no sense. That she's like, oh, I never got cancer. I can't believe that. And I'm like, you're sad about this? And so I don't know if you've done this, but obviously you can ask, whose universe is he tapping into about the fear of the cancer returning? Because if the body says, yep, they're sure there's no problem, then he might have gotten a few entities attached to him with the whole, when he was going through the cancer thing, or his family is afraid the cancer will come back, or any lifetime when he had the cancer come back. And I'd ask him truth, not the body, but truth. Being, do you desire the cancer to come back? Because he may have to get clear that somewhere he hopes it does, or that he doesn't. But once he becomes clear on that, then other things can be shifted and changed. But I would say a lot of times he's tapping into other people's, especially if they've ever spent time in a cancer hospital. You get a lot of points of view is projected. And one of my favorites is, how many times do the doctors want it to come back?
Yeah.
Because then they have a job. And let me do a disclaimer. I'm not saying doctors are bad. I know a lot of amazing doctors. And I also know a lot of doctors who are like, be sick so I have a job. It's like you go to a surgeon, 9 times out of 10, they're going to find some reason to cut you open because they're a surgeon. And I'm not saying it's a wrongness, but just go in with question. So it's like POD/POC, all the projections of like, oh, it's going to return. Because like this young woman that I was working with, her dad's convinced. He's like, oh, her cancer will return in about, when she's about 30. I'm like, where's this coming from? He's like, oh, well, the doctors say da 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 da. So they're completely putting it in her universe that the cancer has to return. So if his body is saying it's fine, who's projecting into his universe, it's going to return. It's, like I said, sometimes it's the doctor, sometimes it's other patients, sometimes it's entities. It's really just, what are they becoming aware of? And truth, what do they know about curing cancer? Because sometimes the energy, something like that, can still be there, not because it's going to return. That's what this reality says, like, oh my gosh, I have a fear of it returning. Well, maybe the energy's still there because you still know something about it you haven't acknowledged. This is part of getting to know the energies. Okay, it feels like I need a little bit more explanation on that one.
So, Donnielle,
just because you're thinking about something constantly doesn't mean you're trying to ward it off. It's like he's like, I have fear of it coming back. I have fear of it coming back. I have fear of it coming back. Well, what if it's not a fear of it coming back, but just something in your universe going, you haven't acknowledged you know about me yet. You haven't turned the key to unlock this awareness for other people yet. So sometimes a good question to ask is, what have you not acknowledged that you know about this?
So this is like the being acknowledging, or the body's acknowledgement?
In this case, I would say the being, but generally both, because generally the body knows something as well as the infinite being. But in this case, if their body's like, nope, everything's fine, and the infinite being keeps having this come back and back and back. So truth, what do you know about cancer that you haven't acknowledged? About curing cancer that you don't acknowledge? Or killing with cancer? That's interesting. What do you know about killing with cancer that you haven't acknowledged?
Wow,
that's interesting. Assassination by cancer. Well, let me know how that one goes.
A nice light topic to end the conversation.
Everything is the opposite of what appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what appears to be.
Oh my God. I love this, Donnielle. I'm so grateful to you, because it's like you just, opened that whole universe of, the magic of bodies and the magic that we as a being are with
Yeah.
bodies. And it's just been phenomenal, just phenomenal. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank
And
you.
all the beings and all the bodies that are listening to the call are so grateful to you, because like all the bodies are going, yes, finally somebody is acknowledging, what we are going through.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So can I be a little greedy and ask you to share one last tip to anything to create more magic with bodies or anything with bodies?
Yes. One more element. Because another thing I've realized that I kind of have a fun talent and capacity with is taking things deeper. And what I mean by that is anybody who's ever asked the question, body, what would you like to look like? Right? We've heard this. I'm going to ask you guys next time you do that, body, what would you like to look like? Besides podpocking the judgment of what you think it has to look like and, willing to receive it and also all that kind of stuff. Also, look at the energy of it. Because sometimes when I ask my body what it would like to look like, I also get a body how it wants to feel energetically. Because it's like I saw a person jogging one time and my body was like, oh yeah, that would be so fun. I'm like, okay, so you want to jog. And then the next day I saw a guy jogging and my body's like, oh, no. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yesterday you showed me a jogger and you thought that would be fun, but today you don't want to be a jogger? And so I started looking at it, and it was the energy the jogger was being with their body, not so much the activity that it was going on, but the energy that they were being. Because I looked at the energy of the first jogger, and he was like with his body and just loving it and enjoying it. And, it was a oneness and a communion. The next day, the jogger was doing it from that force and not enjoying it. And the body was not having a good time. So I was like, oh, so it's also about the energy, not just the physical way it looks, but also the energy of how it is also. So my body shows me different energies all the time. It's like, let's be that energy. That's fun. I'm like, okay. So I would say that's one more tip is when you're asking those questions, like body, what would you like to look like? Don't forget to include the energetic component of that and how that will shift and change things for you.
Wow. So. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So once again, thank you, Donnielle, from all the bodies and all the beings. And thank you for all the bodies and beings who actually showed up on the call and are listening to us live and are going to listen to us in the future. And of course, if your bodies would like to have that, go get Donnielle's package.
It's a fun package. It's one of my favorite. Yeah, like I said, that teleseries was freaking intense. It's pretty cool. So it's a lot of fun. But, don't buy it.
And don't tell your body to create the money to get that package.
Nice one.
So thank you once again, Donnielle. I'm so grateful, and my body is so grateful, and all the bodies and beings. Bye, everyone. See you later tomorrow or tonight when we have the amazing Ratandeep Singh and Lisa.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, Lisa Hendrickson and Hannah Valdevi. So we have two amazing interviews coming up. And what else is possible now? Bye, everyone. See ya.
Thanks.